All right, using Desmos for your homework for section 1.2. You have these two graphs, f of x and g of x. I've already loaded those two in. I'm going to go ahead and make the composite graph for these, and all I'm going to do is go to here and say add item and add expression. I want to put it down at the bottom. Literally, if you want to move stuff, you just grab over here to the left and you can move it any way you want. Okay, so I'm going to type in, I'm just using my keyboard for right now, h parentheses x parentheses, and when you see hx, before you do anything else, you can add a slider to this, and it'll say h equals 1, and just for a moment, I'm going to change this to a value of a. I'm going to go back up here, and I'm going to keep typing equals f of x divided by g of x. And again, I use my keyboard. Down here, if you need to use squares and stuff, they'll pop up, and those are pretty handy. And so now you've got the composite function of what is x minus 2 divided by x squared minus x minus 2. And we've got this trial value in here, which is a. So I'll show you what we're going to do with this here in a moment. I'm going to add one more thing, and I just click below to do it. And I'm going to graph a point, and that point is going to be a for the x value and h of a for the y value. And I'm going to go ahead and show label. Okay, so as I move my slider along, what you'll see is it'll actually track it. Do you see that happening over here? It'll track what the value is. Okay, as you can see here at negative 1, I have a problem, but it shows back up after that. And I also have a problem over here at x is equal to 2. There's an issue there. If you want to see what a is, we can actually do that too, and I'll show you that here for a moment. All right. So let's make a table so we can see what's going on. So you just go to h of x and you hit your gearbox and you say make a table for h of x. And then it'll show you that negative 1 and 2 are undefined. Normally it'll take and look at these things. We haven't looked at these too much, but at negative 1, this is a factor in the denominator where the x value of negative 1 makes the denominator equal to 0, and that's an issue with continuity. This particular discontinuity is called a vertical asymptote. The one that happens over here at 2 is actually called a hole in the graph, and limits still exist at holes in the graph because their left hand and their right hand both agree. So we're going to take a little closer look over here towards 2. So 1.9, and we're going to take a look at 1.99, and then it also wanted 1.999. We're going to go ahead and graph 2, 2.001, 2.01, and 2.1. All right, so as you'll see here, it just did a cluster of points down here on the red. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the two original functions just by clicking on them for a moment so they don't show up on the screen and we can see this a little better. And since we're not really dealing with the vertical asymptote over here, I'm just going to zoom in on the other. So I'm going to zoom a couple times and I'm just going to pull the screen over, maybe zoom once more. And we're really going to zoom in pretty hard at 2 here. Now, another thing you can do in Desmos is you see how your slider bar goes from negative 10 to 10? If you just click one of those 10s, you can tell that slider bar to change from smaller points. Come on, slider bar. Come on, fingers. All right, down here, I'm going to go, let's change just from 1.9 to 2.1. And let's make a really tiny step, 0.001. And then when you click off of this guy, or hit return, either one, now you can see that it really zooms a lot harder, and you can see what the values look like as I zoom in on this. Okay. And again, at 2, it disappears. Why? Because 2 is an undefined point. There's a hole in the graph here. All right. You can't see it because many graphing things don't show a hole in the graph, but it's there. So here's an idea of how to get your homework done. So we just did the homework, and then what we can do is we can actually do what's called a screen snip. And if you go to your Windows icon, there's something called a snipping tool. Click it, and it'll click just the piece that you snipped. All right. I had done this earlier, so I'm cheating a little bit, but you draw a rectangle. You just go upper left hand to lower left hand of what you snip. And then if you name it something that you can remember, in this case, I probably named it something like 1.2 homework number 1, and I hit save in a file that I knew where to save it as. Then when you go to put your homework together, you can actually open up a Google Drawing and then just insert that as a Google Drawing. And then you can put, here's number 1, and I can go, well, number 2, and then number 3, and I can put all those on a Google Drawing, and I've done the homework for that without having to write it all down. I would probably prefer that, at least for something like a table such as this. I think it's a great way to do it. And that's all for today. Thanks.